I'm back with a tag. Andrew Ballina, my buddy from Australia, tagged me with some Stephen King questions. And so here I am to do the tag. Thanks for tagging me, Andrew. Um, this tag is interesting because I realized when I started thinking about these questions that I'm not or haven't been a huge collector of Stephen King physical media, whether it's books or the movies, but I've seen quite a few of them, not all of them, and I have some opinions on it, but it's kind of limited. I'm just not a huge Stephen King guy. I just never got into it. I mean, there are a lot of his films that are excellent, but I'm not obsessed with it, like say Hammer films that I grew up with, or slasher films, or things like that. So I'll give this a shot, see what you guys think of my answers here. What is your favorite Stephen King movie? Well, let me answer it this way. I think I think it's pretty obvious that the best Stephen King adaptation into film, in my opinion, and one of the greatest horror films of all time, is The Shining. I mean, it just is in a lot of different respects. It's a great film. Stanley Kubrick is one of the greatest directors of all time, and this film deservedly gets in the top 20, 25 horror films of all time. It's not my favorite Stephen King film, ironically enough, and I think it's a lot of it just has to do with the time that I saw the film I'm going to show you. And that first viewing and how it kind of resonates with you, that usually supersedes other films that you see later on that you admit are greater. And The Shining is the best of the films, no doubt about it. But this one resonated with me when I first saw it, and that is Salem's Lot. That's my favorite Stephen King film. Why? Because when I was growing up, I saw it on its first, when it aired on TV for the first time, and it just freaking blew me away. I'm a huge vampire person as well, so that had a lot to do with it. At the time I was growing up, I was collecting Super 8 films, and one of the first full-length films I owned was the Nosferatu, Murnau's Nosferatu. And honestly, I think the vampire in this is kind of a homage to Murnau's vision of the vampire. This film blew me away, and the scene that really gave me like chills as a kid. I couldn't go to sleep after seeing it. Was when the little boy floats into the window and is tapping on the window to get his friend to let him in. Man, that freaked me out. Just freaked me out. So this is the film that just kind of got into my DNA and said, this is the one that stands out for me. An honorable mention would be a film I don't even have in my collection. That's what's so funny about these questions. I realized there's a lot of great Stephen King films that I've just not, for whatever reason, I've seen them. I love them. I haven't ever bought them. It's strange. And that's The Dead Zone. Christopher Walken. Love that film. I love his portrayal of Johnny, and I think that's just a really well done movie. And I don't own it. I've got it in my queue to buy. I've just never got around to purchasing it. Strange. Next question. What is the worst Stephen King movie? This one I think is pretty easy for me, and that would be Maximum Overdrive. I don't own it, so I can't show it to you. I'm sure everyone watching this video is familiar with Maximum Overdrive. I think Maximum Overdrive, while it's a fun 80s cheese fest, is not a good movie. It's just a mess, honestly. And Stephen King, I think, admittedly, as well, has said that that's probably one of his worst film adaptations. And being the director, I think apparently he blames it on taking a lot of heavy prescription meds at the time. Whatever the reason is, I just think it's just a mess of a movie. So I would say Maximum Overdrive. Next, what Stephen King book would you like to see adapted into a movie? Well, this one's going to be adapted into a movie, and that is the Doctor Sleep, which is I guess, is the sequel to The Shining. I'm really looking forward to that. So that would be my pick on that question. What Stephen King character would you like to be and why? That's Johnny from The Dead Zone. I mean, who doesn't want to get into the mind of someone? How would you like to be able to touch someone and read their innermost thoughts? That would be, you could probably bank that. So that's what I would want to be as Johnny. What Stephen King character? I did that one. What is the most disturbing scene in a Stephen King movie? Well, there's two, and obviously the one that most people are going to pick, and I have to agree with them, is the ending of The Mist. Brutal stuff. Moving, really got it's a get you ending. So that's got to get at least a comment. But I would have to go back to my tried and true Salem's Lot with the little boy floating in the hospital bed window or in the kid's bedroom window, tapping on the window to let him in. That one screwed me up bad. So I'll take both of those. What is your favorite Stephen King villain? That would be Annie from Misery. Kathy Bates is just brutal in this. Great performance. I mean, she's just brutal. No two words about it. No two ways to describe it other than that. Is just vicious and brutal. So yeah, I would say that would be my pick. And I would also give an honorable mention to James Mason, who was he was kind of the henchman overseer for the vampire in Salem's Lot. He was slick. He was creepy, but he was slick in the way he did it. So I would say he would be my runner-up. What is your favorite Stephen King hero? I would say Tom Hanks as Paul in The Green Mile. I don't own that movie either. I've seen it. There's all these movies I'm talking about. I've seen them, but I've just never gotten around to buying them. And as much as I respect and like Stephen King movies, for the most part, I'm good with seeing them once or twice. I'm done. It's just the rewatch for me is not there for quite a few of those. Ironically enough, movies like Christine, I've got that in my collection. It's not one of my top favorites, but I can watch it over and over again. That's kind of odd, but some of these movies that I respect, and I think The Green Mile is one of those. It's just not one that I would want to go back to. So therefore, I just choose not to take up space upstairs. What is your favorite Stephen King book and why? I believe this is the last question. I've only read one. I read The Shining, so I really can't render an opinion on that. All of his books are just too big of a time investment for me, so I would just say The Shining. Anyway, that'll do it for my review, and I appreciate you watching. Let me know what you think of my answers for the Stephen King questions. Appreciate it.